Hello and welcome to Cricbuzz Live. I'm Saiyami Kher. India take on Bangladesh today. A win for India today. They inch closer to that semi-final spot. A loss for Bangladesh today, and it's the end of the road for them. Today, I'm here to have lots of fun with two people who I've admired greatly since I was young. The finest left-arm bowler and finest left-arm batter in the studio. Please welcome Gilly and Zach. Welcome, gentlemen.
Wow, that's a wrap. Thank you. Hey, mate, good to see you. And what do you mean when you were young? You're still young.
I wish I was, but I get nostalgic thinking of all the childhood memories of just watching you all on screen and all the sleepless nights that you gave us until Zach came and got the wickets. So it was just all that. It feels, the stress levels feel much lesser sitting on this chair, chatting cricket and not watching what used to happen as a cricket fan. So I'm just really happy we are sitting here and chatting about today's game.
I tell you what, that's a lovely sentiment shared by us, I think. It's without digressing from today's game, it's a really nice time in our lives, isn't it, that we can all come together having been old adversaries against each other. And then here I find myself a couple of nights ago sitting in the great man's lounge room sharing a drink talking about old times. So it's a really nice phase of our lives and our, well, not playing careers, our ex-playing careers, to be able to go so hard when we were young and now just be good mates.
But Zach, it's just so, like he's saying, it must be so lovely to come back, sit with people that you all had. Let's say a rivalry, because I remember back from 2003 is my memory that goes. Now to sit together and chat cricket, it's just such a lovely thing.
Yeah, that's the best part about right now, working from the studios. Just to understand also at times, that how one used to be aggressive, one used to be so going at each other, and then, you realize off the field, it's completely different and, obviously connected by the game. So you always have that banter of talking about the game.
Just as consistent as you all were. For India, there's been a lot of consistency this World Cup. Pretty much all the boxes ticked. If only there was one box that we could tick today, is the opening woes that India are having. I think Rohit and Virat are too great, both of them. We know they'll come back when the stage is big, when they are needed to come and step up with the runs. But so far in the World Cup, it's been a little cold for both Rohit and Virat.
It has. I think we need to take into mind the pitch conditions where they've played and that America circuit, if you like, the New York and the Dallas and so on, challenging for every top order that played there, really. So that was an element of lottery about who got runs, who didn't. And then they both, their first hit out in the Caribbean. It's funny, I was in touch with Virat just the other day, just saying, how are you going, and seeing how he was feeling about everything. And he said it's actually, whilst the US was fun and a great promotion for the game, it's nice to be in a more familiar cricketing territory. The pitch in Barbados was a bit slow, so that frustrated both of them a little bit. But I think, well, certainly from Virat's point of view, he plays well against Bangladesh. His track record, I think he averages about 96 in T20 internationals against his opposition today. So he'll feel a little bit more comfort, and you don't write these guys off. They don't lose their talent. They might lose a little bit of timing in certain situations, and they're human. They get challenged at different times. If you present yourself enough times, as these two have for such a long period, there's going to be little passages where you're just a bit down. You can't always be at the top of the mountain.
Well, Zach, it's not just Rohit and Virat. I think it's just the opening combinations that we've gone ahead with. I think the last 10 games, we haven't had a score above 50. And we've had so many changes in the opening combinations. Do you think just kind of changing around too much that we've done too soon?
Look, we're talking about the T20 format here. So when you're looking at overall from the Indian cricket point of view, they've been resting players, they've been managing the workloads, they've been looking at various kind of combos and options for them to have for this T20 World Cup. And also I feel this format is more like a plug and play, isn't it? Like you pretty much the roles are defined, you have the phases, and when you're going in Caribbean conditions, you knew that the wickets were going to be on the slow side. So I think since they decided that, okay, Shivam Dube is going to play that role of someone who's having that six-hitting ability in the middle phase, and the wickets might be slowish, sluggish, those kind of pitches. So you needed to figure out what is the exact combination. And now what the squad makeup was, that you don't have a lot of all-rounders. So you figured all those kind of options, and then you came to this conclusion that, okay, Rohit and Virat are going to be those two openers. IPL was a good practice scenarios for all these guys. Virat was opening in the IPL right throughout. Rohit usually prefers opening anyways. So I think, looking at the conditions, how things go, is something which you have to take into your strides. You can't really just say that, okay, this phase we are playing badly. It was due to the conditions. What matters is collectively what you're achieving.
True.
And I think Indian team so far have been right on track with achieving what they wanted to achieve so far. Maybe form of few players here there, but at the right time, these players have enough experience to know to switch on and deliver when it matters the most.
I think we say it a lot, particularly in T20 cricket. It's rare that your full top six all perform in the one game. There's just not enough time. But I think your point at the start there, Zach, is spot on about the T20 international circuit, if you like, outside of the World Cups. Is very rarely do teams have their full strength team every time in the bilateral series. That is the chance for a bit of resting, a bit of testing out new players, trying to just find out your depth and in case injuries turn up. So that graphic that we had that showed such a variety of opening combinations, that I think a lot of nations would have something similar to that, trying to find out what the right combination is for the main event.
But Zach, also for a lot of Indian fans, it almost feels like deja vu when a left armer comes to Rohit and when there's spin brought to Virat up front. Do you think this has become like a template of sorts that teams are following against them?
Look, it's a game of cricket, right? Every day there are going to be matchups. There are going to be... No one is perfect. You look at a bowler, you look at a batter, you strive for perfection. You strive to be the best you can every time you go out there, and every time there is an opportunity. So these matchups and all that always get formed as you go along. But every game, there's always a chance that, as a batter, you know that, okay, this is your concern, and you get through that phase and you challenge yourself to get through that phase. And once you get through that phase, you deliver. So that's how their careers have been. It's not something new that we're seeing, but that doesn't mean that it's going to continue. And that's the way usually the game is played. These two are great players. And these matchups are also not lying. So there is always going to be the opposition, that man for them to provide that breakthrough if they're able to. They might debate about bringing in a slow bowler from the other side, just to make sure that these two don't get going from the word go. For that.
Yeah, Virat averages 50 against the spin bowlers in the power play. So
it's just Virat against Virat, yes.
Down. That's right. We can look at numbers however we like and interpret different things, but I think the selection of these two at the top, I think their experience will come into play as this tournament gets to the pointy end. And it's a bit like Warner for Australia. There was a lot of noise around Jake Fraser-McGurk coming in, should have been rushed into this tournament, but Australia went, no, we've got a very experienced campaigner in David Warner. We're going to sort of go with that insurance policy there, and he's proving or paying dividends at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if either of these two, at some point, whether it's today or in the next couple of games, from an Indian point of view, you hope it's another 2 games or 3 games after this that they get. I'm sure one of them will turn up.
All right, let's have a look at India's playing 11 and see if they have any changes. No changes for today's game, no surprises there. We were talking about the little bit of inconsistency up at the top. But Zach, I want to talk about a person who has no problem with this consistency. Be it the team, be it the pitch, be it a different continent. There is Jasprit Bumrah, who's just always and forever so consistent across formats is what he does. So I don't think I want to ask you all how he manages to be so consistent because we've, I think, asked this question too many times. But Gilly, how does he manage to adapt so well across all formats?
I think it's not only does he have every sort of weapon in the arsenal there, he can, he's got sheer pace. Yeah. He's got the perfect Yorker. He can sort of deliver a ball from there and it looks like it's angling, but it shapes that way. And then he's got the big slower ball. But not only does he have all those weapons, but his ability to know when to use them. I think that's what he reads situations so well. It's an awkward, it's not a textbook bowling action by any stretch of the imagination. So that might, if you're facing him for the initial time, that could take some getting used to. But I just think his cricket IQ and his bowling IQ, and I'd be interested to see what you think, Zach, on this, but he just seems to know what to bowl at the right time. And he summed that up beautifully, the conditions in Barbados in their last match against Afghanistan. Brand new ball, he was asked to bowl up front rather than a little bit later, and took pace off, and he got that initial wicket, which was a big one. So I think that's where, and that's across all formats.
Yes.
As we saw with that graphic, it was green lights everywhere. And I do think I put Pat Cummins just behind him, but I think Jasprit is the world leader in being so versatile across all conditions in all formats.
Zach, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit more. Like Gilly is saying, he just knows how to adapt to those conditions. But when you have a genius like him in the team, you've spent time with him at MI. The other day, Aksar at the press conference said that the bowling coach Paras doesn't really get too involved with his plans. He says, you know what you have to do and execute it well. So what do you do in a situation like this where he knows exactly what to do? What kind of communication happens when you're spending time with him?
Well, I think communication is in terms of just discussing different situations and understanding the thought process, and then maybe fine-tuning that. Is this something which as a coach you can do? Because obviously there is not much of work in terms of the skill set, in terms of the action, in terms of how you're going on about. It's just a bit of a fine-tuning, and maybe discussing different scenarios, discussing different patterns, I would say. Like, how to mix it. Like for Jasprit, when I'm looking at it, he's undoubtedly the best bowler going right now in the international circuit. But what I like about him, that the approach which he has to play Test cricket, is something which has helped him immensely. Because you get to bowl, and this is a classic example. Right now, if you see the England series, he's played, 4 Test matches? And he was in terrific rhythm, coming off the back surgery. So all those things were getting added. And how do you get to the peak fitness or peak rhythm? Is only by playing matches. And it's not. You're not going to achieve that by just being in the nets. And I think in the current scenario of modern day cricket, what's happening, the preference is given to the white ball. But you get better as a cricketer, or whatever discipline you have, be it a batter or a bowler, by repeating those actions over and over again. And Test format is the best format for you to achieve that. And the example is in Bumrah's rhythm right now. Why is he bowling so well right now? Is because he's hitting the top rhythm. Why is he hitting the top rhythm? Because he's played 4 Test matches before IPL, which really fine-tuned everything, gotten rid of all the doubts which he had after the surgery, and getting all those miles in your legs. And he just fine-tuned right now. All he has to do is just stretch this phase for as long as he can. Just don't miss any games.
Yes.
And manage your workload in the nets. You keep playing games because it's just the muscle memory which is going to keep you going. All you have to do is just, feed in your mind saying that, okay, slower one, Yorker, bowl outswingers. And I think more outswingers he's going to bowl.
Yes.
A lot of troubles he's going to give to batters, because from that awkward angle, if he's bowling those away-going deliveries, like how Gilly was mentioning, from there he's able to get the ball away. But what is going to be more effective is the stock delivery which he bowls, which is the ball attacking the stumps from that awkward angle.
Can I just ask, on a rare occasion where he gets hit around a bit, what's his mood like? What's his mentality and temperament in the change rooms when he comes off?
He doesn't
Not
like
often.
It. Obviously, he doesn't like it. And then he will...
but is he very expressive?
Yeah.
Not very expressive with all those things. I think emotions he keeps it to himself. But you can make out, from his body language that he's he's not happy with what has happened, and then he will go and try and find out. He'll try and analyze. I think Bumrah's strength is that he's very thorough with his preparation. So he will give himself the best chance of figuring out what are the scenarios which can happen and what are his options. But then when they don't go his way on an odd day, he will rethink and reanalyze and revisit that whole pattern.
He wants to know why.
And then try and get on top of that.
Well, this is absolute gold dust. Given a choice, I'd go on and on about it. We have Gilly and Zach here, but we have to have a look at Bangladesh's playing 11, see if they have any changes, see who Bumrah is going to trouble there. Taskin is out and Ali is in for Taskin. Are you all surprised with that, or this was just the big pitch that they wanted to go ahead with the change?
It's a fresh pitch, we've been told over there today. So don't really know what the reasoning why that is. But obviously coming off the back of that rain-affected game against Australia, it might just be a little team balance thing, or they've seen something there. But we'll have to wait and see what the discussion is around that once the game gets underway.
You speak about the team balancing. This is something I've not understood about Bangladesh, because we feel this is a team that can do so well. It comes so close and then it's disappointed quite a few times. We've seen the Under-19 World Cup. They won it in 2020, but they haven't quite got that transition going. If you see, they keep giving away caps from the Under-19 team. They've given 41% of their players from the Under-19 team those caps. You spoke about how Jake Fraser-McGurk was not given a cap. They decided to go slow, give experience the cap. But with Bangladesh, they've given opportunities to the youngsters, but they haven't been really be able to convert it like a Virat or Jadeja or Yadav done, or a Hazelwood has done for Australia. So why do you think this is happening, Gilly?
Yeah, Mitchell Marsh captained Australian Under-19 to a World Cup win as well, I think, with Josh Hazelwood. I'd love to put that graphic up again, because when you look at the left-hand column, who we're talking about, Bangladesh, that's nearly half of their Under-19 World Cup players since its inception in about the late 90s, so a good 25-year sample size. Look at the teams on the right-hand side, particularly the bottom four. I mean, they are, England, India, Australia are really the big three of world cricket, and South Africa, and obviously Pakistan and the likes are there. But those four names, I guess that tells you about some really, really well-structured pathway programs, domestic systems. And then, as you mentioned, Saiyami, not being too flippant or too eager just to hand out something to the latest kid to turn up on the block. The bright lights and wow, there's a real temptation to go, that's the answer. And maybe they've fallen into that sort of trap a little bit in searching for a way to be consistently competitive on the biggest of big stages. So that might be an example, whereas Australia and India and England have been able to have a core group of players to build around, and then just intermittently inject that youthfulness when it's needed. So I think the structures and the foundations of the cricketing organisations. And I can only speak from an Australian cricket point of view, having been through that pathway. I think there's a strong foundation that don't get too carried away. They sort of try to be maybe even a fraction more conservative rather than over-aggressive in that. And we're always known as a nation to play young players, to give youth a go. But I think you've got to be balanced with that. So maybe Bangladesh have just been searching for a way to become more competitive more consistently.
Well, this is something that Lisa Stalekar said during the IPL, that she doesn't see Jake Fraser-McGurk coming in because of the way Australia are. But Zach, do you think the transition has been something they need to learn? Because you've seen Shakib, he's 37, Mahmudullah is 38. So they've not managed this transition well at all.
Well, if you look at all those teams, those teams are not very settled. Or either they're going through transition, or they don't have the stability in the group. So that is something which has been the case, and that leads to inconsistency as well. So I think it also shows the inconsistency in the selection process, and it also shows the inconsistency in the performances as well. The guys who are getting the chances, they are not actually making use of them, or they're not able to cement their place. wherein when you're looking at more settled sides, you will see that the players are playing for long time just on the sheer basis of performances. So you got to let your performance speak once you grab that opportunity. And if you're looking at the transition, there's no harm in getting the youngsters in the side. But then you got to transition in such a way where few are going on to become great players.
Yes.
And they are then taking the mantle of or the responsibility of setting those processes in that group. And that is something which is missing in Bangladesh. We've seen that with Sri Lanka as well.
Yeah.
When they were going through that transition phase, they had 40 players, I think, playing within 1 year. That's a staggering number. When you're looking at Australia, England, India, what they're doing is if they're transitioning someone from under 19 to the higher level, that player has to be with X-factor talent or something which, you've noticed that, okay, this is something special which we are seeing, and then you fast track that player, and that has been the case. And then if that player goes on to take the opportunity and not then slide back to the first class circuit, then you see great players like, Virat Kohli is also an example of that. You've seen a lot of players coming through that. Ravindra Jadeja, Kane Williamson, Joe Root, I think Joe Root is also one of them. Stephen Smith, maybe in that Michael Clark, I remember, was fast-tracked from that kind of a system. So it's about finding that talent, isn't it?
Identifying the talent, and it's much easier. You touched on the point. If there's consistency already in a team, it's much easier to hang on to a young player that you introduce, even if they're not performing. You can hang on to them because the core group are performing, rather than get one in, get one out, get one in, get one out. So you can give them an extended run, and then they get comfortable. Before you know it, they're the consistent performer.
Well, talking about transitions, I want to talk about someone who's transited very well in those two blues, because there was so much spoken about Hardik Pandya for 2 months through the IPL, about his form, his captaincy, but change in the blue, and he's been superlative, which is why we are going to talk about him on our Naukri career score. Naukri.com, India's #1 job portal, know all about growing careers, and they've used that expertise and come up with an interesting way of looking at cricket careers. So Hardik, Zach and Gilly is up there at #3, Zach. In the last 2 years, we're seeing him at #3 in the top pacers. Good to see him there up, Zach.
Well, good to see him with his bowling numbers. He's made this position with his bowling numbers, and I think that's the real balance, and that's why Indian team always believes in him, because it changes the balance of the playing 11. Batting, the position which he bats at, you're not going to get opportunities all the time where you can really make the impact. But with bowling, if you are consistent, it's just going to give the team that luxury. And I think Hardik went through that phase where he was a reluctant bowler. And in these numbers are showing that he's accepted that responsibility now. He's ready to shoulder that responsibility for the team, saying that, okay, this is what it is, and my all-rounder role is going to be fulfilled more by bowling for the Indian team than contributing with the bat, because batting you can still manage, but the bowling is providing that balance to that playing 11. And that's why you're seeing 3 spinners. If Hardik is not bowling the way he's bowling, or he is not contributing 100% with bowling his quota of overs, then Indian team will never be able to play this kind of a combination. I think that's something which he's understood himself, which has gone to these numbers to be out there.
Well, Giri, if we have a look at why he's up there is because of 2 reasons on the Naukri career score. We see him with the consistency. He's at #1, and we talk about situational performance. He's at #2 there. So it's just his consistency over the last 2 years and under pressure situations.
Yeah, it's interesting. We spoke so much about him in the IPL, didn't we? I think at some point people were saying he was going to need the Naukri job portal to go and find another job, but fortunately he got picked. I think he's enjoying his cricket without the captaincy. I think all that happened in the IPL, he probably got to the World Cup and went, Oh, there you go, Rohit. There's the captain's armband. I'll just focus on cricket, so that's great to see. Those numbers, consistency, you're right, in this tournament alone, he's picked up a wicket in every game, save for the match against Afghanistan, where he bowled 8 dot balls in 2 overs. So that probably amounts to a wicket, really, the equivalent value. And then the situational performance, that's the part I love about this cricket score, is how valuable was your contribution? Were they runs that won the game? Were they wickets at vital times? And think back to the 2022 match against Pakistan in the T20 World Cup, MCG, 95,000 people. Virat Kohli, he was clutch.
Yes.
But that was with bat. With ball, Hardik Pandya knocks over 3 Pakistani wickets, numbers 5, 6 and 7. And in 9 balls. So that's how you change a game. That's how you impact on a match. That's what that whole situational performance component of that score rating is about. And I think it's brilliant. It allows us as observers to go, okay, there's easy runs. Well, not so easy at international, but there's runs or wickets, and then there's hard, valuable runs and wickets. And that's a nice indicator.
Well, as Indian fans, we hope he goes on climbing that Naukri career score and has a fabulous World Cup going ahead. Let's quickly have an update on what is happening. Is Bangladesh have won the toss. They will be fielding first. So from one X factor of Hardik Pandya, because India is batting first, I'd like to talk about Rishabh Pant, who has been an X factor this World Cup. He's always been an X factor. But this World Cup, when no one was really being able to play on those New York pitches, he has been someone who scored the maximum runs, not only for India, but across all teams. Zach, how impressed have you been with his return, especially with just the mentality of coming in after the big accident? He's come back under this big World Cup pressure and he's performed the way he has.
No, he has done it superbly. Just the recovery part and making use of the time also. Time away from the game, he's utilized it well to better himself as a cricketer. You've seen those few nuances he's added. Maybe his offside game is better now since he's come back. That's something which was always talked about. But what I liked right now from Indian team and the think tank is that they've utilized his services at number 3.
Yes.
That is going to make a huge difference now for him in this format, particularly going forward, because his approach and intent doesn't really change much. It doesn't matter whether he's playing test matches, ODIs or T20s. But in this way, he will be feeling more settled. The ball is nice and hard when he goes into bat. Sometimes if the early wicket has fallen, then he'll get the advantage of the field restriction as well. But he's someone who needs time. He senses opportunities and then he goes after that. At number 3, he'll be able to be more versatile with his approach. At number 5, you're restricted. The game is deciding and dictating the tempo of your innings too much. Here you can set that tempo for yourself, and Rishabh is really good at it.
Giri, during the IPL, Jay Shah had said that we will pick Rishabh Pant only if he can keep. The BCCI secretary said that, and he's come out and kept. Have you been very impressed with the way he's kept? Also, we spoke about Bumrah and how he's adapted to every format. Does a wicket-keeper need to adapt to every format as well?
Every player needs to be able to adapt in this day and age. But just finishing on his batting, it's a really good point about batting at number 3. You want Rishabh Pant facing as many balls as possible in a 2020 innings. I mean, the 2 openers would hope not, but if he's at 3, he's so well utilised at 3 as opposed to 5 or 6 or even 4. So he set the tempo in Barbados against Afghanistan. He was sweeping and 20 off 11.
Yes.
It's just a nice little punchy innings to get the momentum. His wicket keeping, he has his own style. I remember when Dhoni came on, our techniques in Australia or England are very different to techniques in India and the subcontinent. And Dhoni, we all looked at from an Australian point of view, oh gee, he's lazy wicketkeeper or whatever, but he just got the job done. However he wanted to do it. That's Rishabh. There's no textbook there. It looks like he could move his feet a little bit more, but he's coming back from, what was almost a life-threatening crash, let alone career-threatening. So we've got to allow him that time. The more he plays and wicket keeps at this level, that'll improve. But he's not necessarily it's hard to know who the finest gloveman in India is because there's so many around that he's the right man for the job. There's no doubt about that.
All right, it's time for us also now to improve on this part of our show and answer Mr. Joy Bhattacharya's question. We'll try it. We'll keep attempting. Let's have a look at the question. At least it's a short one. In T20I history, what connects Daniel Vittori and Suleiman Ben?
Oh.
Because it's short, it feels easy. But I'm sure it's not easy. We'll give this time in the green room.
Yeah.
We'll do the more exciting part. I'm told you're off the mark, Gilly.
Yes.
Well done. So we'll let
I
you.
got a few wrong.
We'll let you go first. Then.
I'm back in last position with Manoj, so I'm not on my own. I'm going. So India's batting first, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going. I'm going big. I'm going 195.
Ooh.
I'm going 180.
180.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I was wanting to go 189, so I'll stick to 189.
Okay. Yeah.
So 190.
195.
195, 180 and 189 is what we've got. I really would like to go on and on with my questions. There's Zach. We can go on talking about Bumrah. There's Gilly. I'd like to ask lots of questions on Rishabh Pant, but I've been asked to stop now because the match is starting. We'll be coming back at the 10-hour point, giving you all the updates at the Cricbuzz Combox. So we will see you all there very soon.